if you think about the integrity of a building, the building that I'm in right now, right? We consider a building to have architectural integrity if it can stand whole on its own, if it's a safe place for what's ever inhabiting it, right? The two things that are key for architectural integrity are a strong foundation, strong internal scaffolding, right? But actually, there's a third thing as well, because if it was just a solid brick of concrete, it would be very integral, um, wouldn't be easily knocked over, but you also couldn't live in it. To be able to live in a place of integrity requires spaciousness, room to live, room to breathe. The roomier it is, the more space we feel we have, the more we feel like we can live. The same for us as people, from my perspective. Personal integrity is when you're strong in your foundation, strong in your internal scaffolding, and then have spaciousness within inside yourself. And this is completely physical. Integrity is physical, right? And to that end, right, it's, am I strong in my sit bones here? Right? Am I strong in my seat? Is my internal scaffolding strong? Am I hunched over and collapsed? Or is my spine strong? For me, because I do tend to hunch, for me that means a slight arch of the back. Then my sternum rises, my shoulders open and fall. Now I am in, well, that's interesting. Where did you go? There it is. You disappeared for a second. That's physical integrity, the beginning of it. If you're standing, you're strong in your feet, right? And your spine, slight arch in the back. Poise is a pause. That's also a big part of internal integrity, right? Personal integrity. Are you poised? It just means, can you pause? What is a pause? Take a breath. And that's that spaciousness that I talked about before as well. The spaciousness of the breath. These are the three pieces of personal integrity. To me, integrity is not some external moral code or external value system, because you can adhere to that to a certain extent and feel deeply in discomfort in yourself, right? This can often be people pleasing or people avoiding. Either way, it can feel wrong in your body. You're not in your integrity. You might be doing what's good or right by external expectations, but something inside you feels off. And if you're not at peace with yourself, I don't care what's going on in the external world, you can't be at peace. Peace is always an inside job. The power of a meditative practice is not that the world changes. It's that you shift in how you meet, how you receive and respond to the world. And that is a habit. It's a practice. That's why every Thursday I have a class that's not on YouTube. It's on Zoom. You can get the link by going to my website, which is linked below, where we just practice. Same time, 11:40 a.m. Eastern Time. It's just a 20-minute class where we practice. Because just like piano playing or tennis or dancing, being in your integrity is a habit. It's a habit. So if you if you didn't get the email with the readings in it, you can open that up, or you can just scroll below to the description. At the bottom is the reading for today. Today, I'm going to come in. This is from the second book of the Tao by Stephen Mitchell, chapter 64. And this week we're just doing the reading. Next week I'll do the commentary from him, and I'll send that in the email out, and we'll take this integrity to a little deeper, right? But it's that first stanza that's so powerful to me. Integrity is our true nature. Integrity is our true nature. You, in your true nature, are in your integrity at this very moment. It's only ever a breath away. And this has nothing to do with their external ideas of right or wrong or good or bad. Those are external. And anyone who's ever seen a war anywhere in the world, right? What society or the group thinks is right may or may not be right or wrong for you. It's an internal job. Are you living in your integrity? Right? And this reading is pointing to that everyone is naturally in integrity. Integrity is our true nature. Right? You can't lose this. This is the good news. Even when you feel like you're out of integrity, when you're manipulating the world because you feel disconnected and feel like there's no other way forward other than to manipulate, you are in integrity. You can't be out of it, right? You can't be separate. It's just like the sun, right? Even if it's cloudy or raining or the pitch black of night, the sun is still there. You can't see it, but it's there. Your awareness of it doesn't matter. It's there. So integrity is your true nature, whether you're aware of it or not. Right? This goes back to last week's class on trust, and trust is also very much dependent upon doubt. Well, I don't have the Great Doubt book here, but another book I love to work and study with people is the book on Great Doubt. How doubt is so integral to trust. Right? So, okay, that first line I've kind of beaten it. Integrity is your true nature. I'm going into the trust bit because how do you trust that you're in your integrity? It's a feeling in your body. But like I've said in prior classes, it's not a notion in your head. It's not a thought of right or wrong, because notions are shifting and changeable. And it's not a feeling in your heart, because your feelings are shifting and changing. As I say all the time, anyone who's ever been in love knows that feelings change. They're not solid. They're not permanent. Your integrity is in your hips, is in your belly, is right here, right? And that is the lower belly breath that we cultivate every time we sit. If you stop right now and breathe and drop into your lower belly, in another classes I go into this, and if you work with me privately, if you meet me on Thursday in the Zoom class, I teach how to get into the belly. I'm not going to get into that now. But join me on Thursday because we're in the integrity class. I will go into how to get into your belly breath this Thursday for sure. Breathe into your lower belly. When it feels right in that bottom of your gut, or whether it feels wrong in the bottom of your gut, that is your integrity. It knows more than you mentally or emotionally know. It's more deeply connected to the whole that we are. And this is not some airy-fairy, like New Age, kumbaya. This is Carl Sagan. This is science. This is physics. This is one whole thing. You go to the International Space Station, look at the Earth, it's one thing. It's like your eyeball or a cell, right? It's one thing. We are it. When you're grounded in your belly and not as distracted by the head of the heart, you are in your integrity because you're connected to the whole, which goes on to the next lines further down. But before I get into that, he teases us here. Integrity is our true nature. Arriving at integrity is the work of a lifetime. This is such a deceptive line, and I kind of love its deception because it's like, I have to work my whole life to be in integrity. Well, yeah, but not in the way you might think. Life is moving, right? When I first came on, and I was actually 2 minutes early today, so I kind of like stalled for 2 minutes until it was officially time. I lost my train of thought. I totally lost my train of thought. I'm still new to the YouTube, and it does kind of distract me a little bit. I get a lot of data up here, and it shows me things. So even someone with a 30-year Zen meditation practice who's an ordained lay monk can lose their train of thought, right? Because that's it, right? It's always that was the point that I was getting to. It's always it, right? When I first got onto this YouTube live, and I was a couple minutes early, right? That was then. I can never recreate that moment. That is forever gone, and my imagination of it is subjective. It's actually not real. Each of you, if you are on or watching a replay, I will edit that out later. We'll get rid of that useless 2 minutes. But, that's gone. It's moving, right? The future, also in my imagination, not real, moving. The only time you're ever alive is here and now. Right? We're not talking about psychic knowing what's right in the future or like trying to decipher the past. We're talking about right here and right now. My body knows this. So when this says arriving at integrity is the work of a lifetime, it's because we're continually arriving. There's nowhere to get to, and there's nowhere to go back to. We arrive here and here and now and now. And this is how this circles right back to a meditation practice. This is how the practice that we do on Thursdays in Zoom, join me, because we practice, it's all about the practice. You practice being here, now, and now. So arriving in integrity is the work of a lifetime because you're constantly doing it. Oh, am I in the future? Am I in the past? I've lost my integrity. Okay. So it is the work of a lifetime, but it's not like you have to work at it for your life to eventually get to it. Okay. That's deceptive. That's a wrong read of those lines. It's a little nuanced. But once it's clear that this is a continual arriving, a continual being, a continual living, and you can never ever miss it. You can't. It's unmissable. Just like the sun, even in the pitch dark of night, it's still there. Right? You can't get rid of it until the sun burns out and then when implodes or explodes. But even then, the sun still is. Every one of those atoms, not created or destroyed. It just changes, just like I am changing and you are changing and my integrity is changing and my notions of good and bad and right or wrong are changing. Everything is movement. And again, I'm going to beat this because it keeps coming back to the practice of meditation. Because how can you be in the now and the now and the now when the world and its value system says be in the future, be thinking, planning, solving, knowing, fixing? We literally have what we call a knowledge-based economy. What was it? God, 10, 12 years ago, I worked at the World Bank in the knowledge exchange practice, an entire arm of the World Bank, right? That was all about how do we manipulate knowledge? How do we contain it? How do we share it? How do we move it? We are a knowing-based economy. My value and worth by the external world is completely contingent on what I know, think, solve, do. That's all future and past. Knowledge is of the past. Thinking and planning is of the future. Either way, I'm not here. Here is a breath. Right now, right here. Nowhere else. This is reality. This is integrity. Okay? So he says, integrity is our true nature, right here, right now. Again, if you just joined, the readings are below in the description, so you can read along with us. This is chapter 64 of Stephen Mitchell's second book of the Tao. So integrity is our true nature, and arriving at that integrity is the work of a lifetime. And that just means we're constantly doing it. I'd like to tweak the word work. Who wants to work? It's being, it's living. It's the living of a lifetime, right? It's not work. It is practice, so it becomes more habitual and easier. But once it becomes more of a habit, it just is. You just are. You always have been. This is how we get to peace. So the next stanza, he says, the person who has integrity does the right thing without trying to. Do you imagine? Everything you do is right. Me messing up last week and not being able to figure out how to hit the go live button was right. Right? Me getting on too early today and having to procrastinate for 2 minutes because no one was here yet is right. Because whatever is. You don't have to try. Now, we often have a deep sense that, oh, what I did was wrong. What I said was wrong. It doesn't feel right. That's our integrity saying, get out of your head. Get out of your heart. They're data points. They're useless. They're useless. They're not useless. They're useful. Maybe they are useless. I don't know. No, they're useful. They're very useful. They're imperative. Our thinking and our emotions are imperative. We don't get rid of them. We become aware of them. We use them as data points, but then keep coming back to our belly. Oh, that is so interesting. Okay, there's the belly. I got a new computer because I think that was part of the issue with last week's stuff. And I'm still getting used to how sensitive this thing is. It's a touch screen as well as a thing. So when I move the screen, whatever, we're learning. That's my integrity. Learning, moving, being, living. That is living in integrity. My head will have its ideas, and go back to last week's and 2 weeks before video, and I talk about this a lot more about when I get into trust, like how do you trust right and wrong? How do you trust your mind and your heart? They're data points. We want to be aware of them, but create space. And then we come to our lower belly and breathe. And if it feels right, go. If it feels wrong, pause, wait, or don't go. Maybe walk away. Your body will be clear. It might take some time to learn how to trust your body. But as you practice sitting, just sitting and breathing with your body, that trust in yourself will grow and your integrity will grow along with it. That is the effortlessness. So he says, the person who has integrity, you have it right now, does the right thing without trying to, understands the truth without thinking, and naturally embodies the Tao. The Tao is the whole thing. The universe, the flying spaghetti monster, God, the unnameable X, whatever poor name we try to give this existence that is, right? That's the Tao. That's why we like the word the Tao. There's no, there's, at least here in the West, there's not as much cultural idea that kind of holds it down. So we can use it, the Tao, just technically called the way, or existence, or living. And then he gets into something that we'll spend more time on in future classes because we're already at 20 minutes. I have about 2 more minutes here. But integrity is not only the fulfillment of our own being. So that's where this is that peace bit, because when you're in your integrity, you feel fulfilled. Even if what I do in my integrity in this moment, naturally, is externally bad or wrong or a failure. Because I did it from my body, not my heart and its emotions or fears or desires, which can lead me astray, or my head and its ideas of success or failure, but I've come from my belly, my integrity. No matter the external outcome, I will be at peace with my action. And that's the only peace that ultimately matters. And here's the cool thing, when you're at peace, and this is where he goes into when we fulfill our own being, right? All beings are fulfilled, because that is that deeper connection to the whole that we are. And when you're coming from here and not your personal egocentric fears and desires or ideas of right and wrong, success or failure, when you come from your own integrity, you are actually doing what's right for the whole. And here's the caveat. We don't know what's right for the whole. Right? Alan Watts, a famous Zen teacher, so to speak, more of a Zen philosopher in the end, I would say, and a Zen preacher, talker. He had this great example of how if you looked at what goes on in your stomach after you eat something, it would look like war. Acid is attacking the meat, alkaline is attacking the fruit. There is a full-out war going on that's totally destructive. Like you're emaciating things in your mouth, like the whole digestion and nutrition process, the whole process of life can look, depending on your perspective, as ultimately destructive. But that's a limited perspective. That emaciation that's going on in my body of whatever it is that I eat, that attacking of it is actually necessary for my digestion and later assimilation, which is necessary for my life. At some point when I am a corpse and I am dead and the bugs are eating out my skin and my eyes and I'm devoured or just rotting into the earth to become fertilizer or food for the next, that is life. And this is where we get into bigger concepts of no life, no death, because if you really start to look at death, it is the seed of life. Right? You don't have any flowers, new flowers, without the seeds that come from dead flowers. Yeah. It's all one. This is that oneness of things. That's the bigger part of all this work and this practice. And It's when you get into that bigger stuff of like no life, no death, in the midst of life and death, that a real deeper peace with yourself and the world does arise. And then this is where it becomes really what I think is beautiful, is in that peace you really start to meet people. You meet yourself, you meet others with such an intimacy and grace. And sometimes that meeting of other people can, like, there's times where I'm so angry at someone or so hurt, and I just see how, it's not right, but how, oh yeah, there was nothing else I could do in that moment. Given everything in the past and everything that I am at this time right now, that was my only possible reaction, right? And it's in these things that we begin to become at peace with ourselves, specifically peace. And this goes back to the trust thing that we were talking about, I think 2 weeks ago when I did chapter 49 of the Tao Te Ching. She trusts people who are trustworthy. She also trusts people who aren't trustworthy. She also trusts people who aren't trustworthy. This is true trust. She trusts herself when she's trustworthy. She also trusts herself when she isn't trustworthy. This is true trust. It's bigger than our small-minded ideas of right and wrong. But we can't see that. We can't feel that without the practice. Without the practice. So join me on Thursday. There's a link in the description if you don't already have the Zoom link. But 11:40 to 12 on Thursday, we will just practice. We will get into our bodies and practice being here and now in this moment, right? The only moment we're ever alive. I hope this little short was a nice intro into a different perspective on integrity, or maybe something more. Maybe I don't know. Ask me your questions. Put them in the comments. I will try to answer any questions, because I think what I'm saying here could often be quite controversial, and that's good. That's your integrity. Don't never believe a word I say. Never believe a word of anyone. Don't even believe your own words. Right? This is the practice of doubt that opens us up into the more beyond what we think we know. And the more you open up, at first it's scary and feels a little like you might get defensive, but then we open up, and the peace just expands, especially in the midst of our anger or malice or other things, right? As you practice. Oh, Mary, you're here. Thank you, Mary. Aw, thank you, Mary. So good to see you. Yeah, this is the beauty. This is the work. We'll finish. So now that we've done this, I think that we'll go into this second long stanza in the reading next week in this class, because we just kind of touched on the first. But if you have any questions about this, right? Like, integrity is your true nature. Arriving is the work of a lifetime. Just start there. Practice arriving in this moment. In this moment. See if you can notice your head and your heart, your thoughts, your ideas, and your feelings. Just begin noticing them. Practice that, and then just take a breath. Like, oh, that's interesting. Not right, not wrong. Oh, Nicole, you're here too. Oh, it's so good to see. I'm so grateful for all you guys. I just really love it. Thank you. Oh, Caroline. I love you guys so much. Ah. I'm really so grateful for all of you. And just so wonderful. Okay, in your integrity, in your beauty, as you are perfect. And if you don't know that yet, know that I know that, because if you've known me, and the people that I'm seeing here, you guys have known me for a couple of years now, right? Because we started doing all this in the beginning of the pandemic, like on Zoom, which is my mailing list. And you know I am far from perfect. Right? Right, like by some external standards. We talked about the time I had the meltdown in Target. It was hilarious, right? And I was like, this is it. This is the good stuff, right? Like back in the day when I was all composed and like just, always with it, right? That wasn't it. I was able to suppress and put on a facade, right? And now I actually feel so much more. Like I have no more, I had such a poker face. I got no poker face anymore. And I make so many more mistakes. And the peace with that is just fascinating. And it's like, oh, wait, I'm making more mistakes, but there is no mistake because I don't know what this is, right? And that peace within myself, I do know that here and there, not always with everyone, especially those closest to me who I have deep emotions with, and sometimes like there's pain, it's harder. It's so much harder. But you start to have more and more peace with yourself, and as you do, you start to have more and more peace with everyone else. And then this is the good. Then it gets gooder and gooder. This gooder's a thing, right? I think there's now like there's a company called Gooder now. It's hilarious. Anyway, thank you guys for being here. We went to 20 minutes. I will cut off the first 2 minutes of yammering, and I hope to see you guys all here next week. We'll continue with the first part of this reading, although I will give you the next part. And I hope to see you guys Thursday for practice. Sitting with you, and so grateful. Have a great week. Love you all. Bye.